am here to share with you some curriculum resources for K through 12 educators on Asian American history from the Immigrant History Initiative, or IHI, which is a nonprofit organization founded in 2018 by two Asian American women, Julia Wong and Kathy Liu. And IHI provides community programming for youth and families and works with schools to create educational resources and professional development for educators to teach the stories of the Asian diaspora with a focus on immigrant narratives and bring Asian American histories into the classroom. So in today's workshop, we are going to explore some of the free online lesson plans that IHI has available on our website. IHI's interactive curriculum combines history, storytelling, and identity exploration, and allows students to engage directly with primary sources to deeply understand Asian American histories and connections to the present day. So to get started, I'm going to share a few facts with you about immigration history. These facts might be known to you or not, surprising, activating. I'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections in the chat. So fact number one, the first undocumented immigrants were Asian. They were most likely Chinese railroad workers who had been legally admitted into the US, traveled north to work on the Canadian railroads, and then were unable to re-enter the US through legal means. Why? Because of fact number two. The first and only major US immigration law to ever explicitly prohibit an entire group of people based on race or ethnicity was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. This and other immigration laws targeting Asian immigrants marked them as, quote, aliens ineligible for citizenship, unquote, created the whole concept of what undocumented or, quote, illegal immigration is, and started the United States reputation as the global giant of immigration regulation that it is today. And this brings us to fact number three. These laws created the language of immigration law that we see around the world today. There was no such thing as an undocumented immigrant before these laws because there was no such thing as documentation until the US government began subjecting Asian immigrants to numerous government forms, interrogations, investigations, and affidavits, all for the purpose of strict government surveillance. The US government created illegal immigration by making it extremely difficult or even impossible for immigrants from non-Western European countries to immigrate. This history shows us that immigration law has been racialized from the very beginning. And you're all here because you want to uplift the success of our immigrant students and teach the histories of immigration in the US. We can't talk about immigration history without talking about Asian American history. And I'm going to share my screen again on the lesson plan website. So I'm going to show you all where you can find our lesson plans. In the interest of time, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly, but all of this is available to you on our website and the link is in the chat. As you can see, we have developed a variety of anti-racist curricula and other educational resources focused on Asian American and immigrant histories for schools and communities. Our lessons are aligned with Common Core standards and designed to be both user-friendly and flexible for educators to adapt to their classrooms. I'm going to highlight a few of our lesson plans right now. So the first one we have here is a series of lesson plans on AP US history. They're co-created with Anti-Racist APUSH. They're aligned with APUSH key concepts and teach the histories of the Transcontinental Railroad, Chinese exclusion, some of the major immigration acts, and the model minority myth. We also have a lesson plan on cross-racial solidarity movements during the civil rights era and the formation of the Asian American identity through Third World Liberation, student strikes, the Yellow Power movement, and the Vietnam War protests. We have a variety of lesson plans of resources for addressing the anti-Asian racism that has arisen from the COVID-19 pandemic, including a hashtag We Are Not a Virus video series and a lesson plan making historical connections to racist scapegoating during the smallpox epidemics in the 1800s, as well as a guide for how to address anti-Asian racism through restorative justice dialogue. So most of our lesson plans are catered toward middle and high school grade levels, but we do have a series of K-5 lessons that we created in partnership with Maya Espiritu from My Storybook. These are read aloud lesson plans that both educators and caregivers can use with students to center Asian American voices and stories, practice reading comprehension skills, and engage in interactive activities. Okay, so let's delve deeper into one of these lesson plans. We have a pair of lesson plans on gender and intersectionality that focuses on Asian American immigrant experiences and policies as they relate to gender, and examine the intersections of race and gender through a few historical case studies. So I'm going to briefly walk through one lesson plan and show you how you can adapt it to your classroom. So the first lesson plan in this pair is entitled Immigrant Women Do It All, Influence of Picture Brides. It teaches the history of picture brides, which was a tradition of Japanese and Korean individuals exchanging photographs across the world to make marriage agreements between husbands and wives. And in the midst of the anti-Asian exclusion era of the early 1900s, this was one of the ways Asian Americans formed families, and it was one of the few opportunities for Asian American women to immigrate to the United States. So this lesson plan invites students to think critically about gender roles and perceptions at the intersection with race, how they've been shaped by immigration policies and racist rhetoric, and how this has set the ground for the particular ways Asian women are perceived in the 20th century and now. You can see that the lesson plan is aligned with Common Core standards, as well as New Jersey state standards for English language arts and social studies. This lesson plan includes a downloadable agenda and slide deck that you can customize in Google Doc and Slides. And educators have the option to build this into an existing lesson of theirs or use it as a ready-to-go lesson timed for a 50-minute class period. As we go through it, you'll see that the lesson incorporates media, primary sources, and interactive activities. So here we have, I'm just gonna walk through the slides. The students first engage in a bell ringer activity to transition into the lesson and introduce students to the topic. Educators can can choose between two options for the bell ringer, either the trailer for the Korean American film Minari, or a video featuring photographs and quotes from the picture bride couples. This will launch students into a discussion around the keywords and themes of this lesson: gender, identity, and stereotypes. So students will then examine, as a historical case study, the cultural tradition of Japanese and Korean picture brides, learning about the origins of this practice and the experiences that many picture brides faced upon their arrival to the US. Students will read through some direct quotes from some of these picture brides in order to understand the different gender expectations for Japanese and Korean women and men and their motivations for forming families in this way. Students will then make connections between the history of picture brides and present day experiences and identities of characters in the film Minari at the intersection of gender and race. They'll go even further by introspecting on their own lives and the gender roles that show up in their families. Okay, so I'm gonna go back now and show you the agenda for this lesson plan. And there is so much room for flexibility in how educators can adapt this into their classrooms. There are various activities for film analysis and self-reflection to connect the themes of gender roles to present day and personal influences. For educators teaching about US history, you can use this lesson as an opportunity to teach students about the exclusion laws that limited and prohibited Asian Americans from immigrating to the US, including the Page Act of 1875, which specifically targeted Asian women by marking them as promiscuous and threats to American morality, or the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which was not repealed until 1943. And the film analysis activity, or the optional more than a picture assignment, could be turned into a lengthier writing assignment or art collage activity. There are so many ways to get creative with these lesson plans and adapt them to fit your students, their grade levels, your existing curriculum, and your teaching style. Yeah, so we have a few upcoming lesson plans to look out for later this year, including an official series of lesson plans to accompany the 1987 Oscar-nominated documentary Who Killed Vincent Chin, on the story behind the murder of Vincent Chin. We're also working with UCLA on their multimedia textbook on Asian American and Pacific Islander history, designing the lesson plans for a chapter on the Tate family, who was at the center of the landmark Tate v. Hurley court case that transformed school segregation and educational inequality. So those are some to look out for later this year. And I just want to say thank you all so much for your time. We have even more lesson plans and resources on our website, so please check them out.